section known as Joshua and the Judges. It was a 5-part series. Now we're going to get into the prelude to the kings of Israel and the split of the kingdoms eventually. But we're going to start with Samuel and his life. I don't know if we'll get to... I'll try to make it to the anointing of King Saul. I don't know if we'll get into Saul's reign much. We might have to do that next week. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with 1 Samuel chapter 1. And there's a prelude to this. It doesn't start with Samuel, but his parents and even the high priest at the time. All right. So this is 1 Samuel 1:1. Now there's a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, and Ephrathite. All right. So, you know we like to pull up the maps on this. Try to find these cities. Let's go to the one with the most cities on it. All right. See if we can find Ramoth in Mount Ephraim. As we have looked through the history before and saw Mount Ephraim is in eastern Ephraim. So this is Ramoth Zophim. And later on we see that, like as it says down here, Ramah. It's also known as Ramah. Alright. That's Mount Ephraim. Mount Ephraim is over here in this general region, as we see, and Ramah is actually down into Benjamin. Most likely it was a border city between Ephraim and Benjamin. Alright. I know this map doesn't necessarily have the territory all the way right, because if you read, as we read in Joshua, when we was at Joshua, the land allotment of Ephraim actually goes all the way to the Jordan. But that's a story for another time. Ramah is down here in southern Mount Ephraim, as we can see. So, let's go back. And he had 2 wives. So this is Elkanah. Alright? This is Samuel's dad. And he had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other, Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas. Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there, right? So this is in Shiloh. So if we see Shiloh on here, we should. It's a very populous city. Or very mentioned. Alright, it's a very mentioned city in the scriptures. Alright, we see Shiloh up here. So they moved, or they go every year from Ramah up to Shiloh. Alright, let's go back. That's where the tabernacle was originally. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah. But the Lord had shut up her womb, right? She was barren. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb, right? So Peninnah would, make fun of her. And as she did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat, right? So this was a hard time for her, because this is when all the mockery would reach its zenith. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved? Am not I better to thee than 10 sons? He said, look, it's clear that I love you more than my other wife. So why are you still sad? Right? Because she has no kids, right? So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou will indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thy handmaid, but will give unto thy handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. Right? So this is after Samson And the people had that in recent memory, right? So she said, look, if you just give me a child, O Lord, I will give him unto you, and he will be dedicated unto you his whole life, and he'll never cut his hair. All right? So that child ends up being Samuel. And it came to pass as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken, right? But as we read earlier, Hannah didn't even eat or drink anything whenever they went up to Shiloh, right, to the tabernacle. And Eli said unto her, how long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, no, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Right? She was praying within her heart very quietly, but moving her lips. Count not thy handmaid for a daughter of Belial, right? A devil woman, a she-devil. For out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And she said, let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. All right. So Eli said, okay, well, I will pray in the same manner. Let that be justified before the Lord. And I do want to check and make sure my audio is not acting up or anything like that, because I've had issues with that in the past. Therefore Eli thought she had. Okay, so yeah, all praise to the Most High. Verse 19. And they rose up in the morning early and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Right, so they had sex, and the Lord remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, because I asked him of the Lord, right? And that's what Samuel means. It means God heard, essentially. The word heard and God. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then will I bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. See, back then, weaning took like years. They didn't take the baby off the titty until like 3 or 4, usually. And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, do what seemeth thee good. Tarry until thou have weaned him. Only the Lord established his word. So the woman abode and gave her son suck until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with 3 bullocks and 1 ephah of flour and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. And they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my Lord, as thy soul liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. All right. So yeah, even in this story, I have mixed up Eli and Elkanah. I'm bad about doing that because they both start with El. But Eli is the one who came into the tabernacle with her praying, all right, or the temple, as it says right here. Like, so Eli is the one who established her vow, right? All right. Elkanah knew nothing of it. All right. So all right. So starting again, verse 26. And she said, O my Lord, as thy soul liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord had given me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord, as long as he liveth. He shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. Alright, so she give her child, the only child that she had, right? Give him to the high priest and said, let him learn here, let him grow here in the word of the Lord. Alright, so that's the kind of childhood that Samuel had from a very young man, very young child, I should say. Not even nowhere near being a man, right? He grew up with the priests, with the law of the Lord, all right? And, of course, Hannah's prayer is, important prophecy, but this is not a prophecy class. This is a history class. So we're going to skip that. We're going to jump down to verse 11 in chapter 2, all right? And Elkanah went to Ramah to his house. And the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest, right? So Samuel stayed there with the priests and grew up with the priests. Verse 12. Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They knew not the Lord, right? So the sons of the priests, they were the devil. The sons of Eli were the devil. And Eli didn't have the backbone to stop them from being the devil. And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came while the flesh was in seething, with a flesh hook of 3/10 in his hand. And he struck it in the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh unto the Israelites that came thither. All right. Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest's servant came and said to the man that sacrificed, Give flesh to roast for the priest, for he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw. And if any man said unto him, Let them not fail to burn the fat presently, then take as much as thy soul desireth. Then he would answer him, Nay, but thou shalt give it me now, and if not, I will take it by force. All right, so you had a custom back in the day where the priest is only supposed to take what that flesh hook would bring up out of the pot, right? That would be his portion, all right? But Eli's son said, Give it all to me now, and I'll go cook it in my place, right? So very wicked. They robbing the people of their goods, of their meat, of their crops. Wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord, right? So this made people hate the priests, made people hate doing the work of the Lord, doing the service of the Lord. But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice, right? So she only saw her son like a year, like once in a year, I should say, right? She would bring him gifts, bring him clothes, things like that. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, The Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan which she lent to the Lord. And they went unto their own home. And the Lord, I did not mean to click that. He's going to the parallels. My apologies. Verse 21. And the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord, right? So she was able to have more children after that, after the Lord opened up her womb, right? After she had made that vow with the Lord and delivered on that vow. Now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto Israel, and how they lay with the woman that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. That's like a lot of priests do today. They're sleeping with the women in the congregation. That's what these wicked priests were doing. And he said unto them, Why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Nay, my sons, for there's no good report that I hear. Ye make the Lord's people to transgress. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto the voice of their father, because the Lord would slay them. Alright, so God already had it in mind that he's like, yeah, these men gonna die. So they didn't listen to the rebuke that their father told them. Right? And Eli was very old at that point. He couldn't stop him. And the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men. And there came a man of God unto Eli and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon mine altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at my offering, which I commanded in my habitation? And honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel my people? Right, so of course Eli will sit here and say, hey, look, you're not supposed to do this or that, you're not supposed to transgress, but he's still reaping the benefits though. He's still taking that extra meat that they're bringing in. He's honoring his sons above God. Alright. Verse 30. Wherefore the Lord God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now the Lord saith, Be it far from me. For them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thy house. And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, and all the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thy house forever. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thy heart. And all the increase of thy house shall die in the flower of their age. Right? So God is putting this curse on Eli and his house. How they were not to prosper. They were not going to prosper any further. And this shall be a sign unto thee that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall die, both of them. Right? So both his sons gonna die the same day. And I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in my heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, Put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread. Right? Because that's how the priests would eat. They would eat based upon the sacrifices and the work that they did. But let me pull something up real quick, because this is the high priest at the time, and this is in the old King James Version. I don't know if y'all can see this. I'll move it over here so y'all can see it a little better. The King James Version genealogies. All right, this is like page scan of the original 1611 edition. It had all these genealogies in the beginning, and this is the genealogy of the high priest. I just wanted to point this out real quick while we're speaking on Eli and his house, right? So right here you start with Aaron. They have Ithamar and Eleazar, right? The two different sons of Aaron who did the priest's office, right? Then you go all the way down and you have Eli right here. And you have Ahitub, which is, as it says right here. And you see how once you get past Ahitub, it switches to Zadok. Alright? So God wasn't playing when he said he's gonna cut off Eli's house. He's gonna switch it over. Alright? And to be a different descendant of Aaron, Eleazar, and them. Alright? So I just wanted to point that out real quick. Let's keep going, because we hear that curse against Eli right then, but God's not done with Eli just yet. So it's 1 Samuel, the 3rd chapter. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision, right? There was no prophets the way that you read about later in the scriptures, right? And similar to how there's no prophets today, there's no visions and no signs that the Lord is dealing with anyone these days, because the world is so wicked. All right, because God's people, the Israelites, are so wicked. All right, verse 2. And it came to pass at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. Right, he began to go blind. And the lamp of God, went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep. All right, so the lamp of God would be the menorah. That the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. And he ran to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou callest me. And he said, I called thee not, lie down again. And he went and laid down. And the Lord called yet again Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou did call me. And he answered, I called not, my son, lie down again. Right? So this is the Lord speaking to Samuel, but Samuel is so young, he doesn't really know what's going on. Alright? Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. And the Lord called Samuel again the 3rd time, and he arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou did call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Verse 10. And the Lord came and stood, and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. All right, he said, once it starts going, that's the end of Eli and his house. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile, and I restrained them not. And therefore I have sworn. And his sons have made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. Right? He ain't put the boot down. Right? He ain't put his boot down and tell them to stop doing the wickedness that they was doing. He said it, but he was still reaping the benefits. And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. He said there's no way that he can repent for this. There's no way he can make this right. Verse 15. And Samuel lay until the morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. Right? Because you're going to sit here and go to the, it's basically your adopted dad. Right? And tell him, hey, God's going to kill you and your family. Right? So it's understandable, especially for a kid. That's a lot on his shoulders. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, here am I. And he said, what is the thing that the Lord had said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it not from me. God do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me of all the things that he said unto thee. Right? Because Eli already knew. Because he had already received a vision from the man of God in the previous chapter. Alright? And Samuel told him every whit, and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seemeth him good. Right? Because if Samuel would have said something and lied to him and said, oh, the Lord has promised you great things and bountiful blessings, then Eli would have been like, no, that doesn't sound right. God has already cursed me. But since Samuel told him, hey, the Lord cursed you and he's going to kill you and your family, Eli's like, yeah, that's right. That's what the Lord said. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. And everything that he said come to pass. Everything meant something. And all Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. And I talked about this last week, I'm pretty sure. But I want to reiterate. Beersheba is down here. Where's my cursor? Beersheba is down here, right? One of the southernmost cities. Dan is up here, one of the northernmost cities. So that just means all of Israel. When it says from Dan to Beersheba, that's all it means. It means all Israel. Alright, and all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again in Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord, right? By speaking to him. Alright. This is 1 Samuel 4, I'm starting verse 1. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer. And the Philistines pitched in Aphek. So let's see if we can see Ebenezer and Aphek. I think those are two smaller cities that aren't going to be on here. Right, I don't see them anywhere. So most likely it's in this valley right here. Between the Gaza coast and these mountains of Judah. It's probably right here in this valley, if I had to guess. That's usually where the Philistines and the Israelites met for battle. Alright, let's go back. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines. And they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. And when the people were coming to the camp, the elders of Israel said, wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Right? Why has this happened to us? Excuse me. Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies, right? Because they knew that the ark of the covenant held the power of God, all right? Very, very powerful instrument is the Ark of the Covenant. Alright. So the people sent to Shiloh that they might bring from thence the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of Hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the Ark of the Covenant of God. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. All right, so it was like an earthquake. The ground is shaking. When the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What meant the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews?" They understood that the ark of the Lord was coming to the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "God is coming to the camp." And they said, "Woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness," right? Because they were polytheistic people, because they had many gods. They looked at us as if we had many gods, but no, we serve the one true God, the Lord God of Israel. All right. Let's see. All right, in the wilderness. "Be strong and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight," right? Like, quit being scared and fight against these Hebrews that are coming against you, right? This is what the Philistines saying. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. It's crazy, 34,000 in total. Right, you have the 30,000 in the second battle, 4,000 in the first one. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. Right, and see, that's why we had lost the battle, because of Hophni and Phinehas. Right, two wicked leaders of the people. All right, when the leaders of the people are wicked, all the rest of the people suffer for it. And as you see right here, and that's why they were killed. That's why they were killed. All right, verse 12. "And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day, with his clothes rent, and with earth upon his head." Right, those were customs of mourning that we did. We tore our clothes and put the ashes or put the dirt on our heads. "And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, What meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now, Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim, and he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, What is there done, my son? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. Thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. For he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years, right? So Eli was fat, and when he notice it didn't say that he fell over when he heard his sons died. He fell over when he heard that the ark of God was taken. All right. So he knew that was the most important thing there. He's like, wow, the ark of the covenant is in the hand of heathen, is in the hand of people who aren't God's chosen. This is bad. This is very bad. All right. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains come upon her. And about the time of her death, the woman that stood by her said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. So, even this woman with child, she can't even focus on her own child right now, because, as I said, the ark of God was taken, glory was departed from Israel, our power was taken away from us in that moment, because, again, the ark of God held the power of God. All right, you know, the priest is dead, her husband's dead, you know, all hell's broken loose, right? It's chaos. All right, so I didn't want to skip over the ark among the Philistines. I considered it because this doesn't really have anything to do with Samuel, but I think it's important information to have. Chapter 5, verse 1. And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod, right? And let's see if I find Ashdod on here. Yeah, Ashdod's right here. It's one of the prominent Philistine cities. When the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. Dagon is the fish god, all right? And they had little fish hats. The priest of Dagon had the fish hats similar to the Pope's hat. All right, that's where the Pope gets that hat from. That's why people, mainly Catholics, but other parts of Christianity, have the fish symbol, because that goes back to Dagon. All right. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. Right. So this it just shows the the idiocy of this idolatry, right? It can fall over. If your God can fall over and can't pick himself back up, then you don't serve a real God. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off from the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him, right? So originally, their idol just fell over before the ark, right? And they're like, that's weird. Let's pick it back up. It fell over, pick it up again. Next time it falls over, head fell off, arms fell off. I mean, not arms, hands fell off. Verse 5. Therefore neither the priests of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. They said, we ain't playing around with that house no more. Dagon is not there. Verse 6. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. So emerods is hemorrhoids. Alright? He is quite literally in their ass. Alright? And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon our God. Right? So when the people of Ashdod heard about all this and they're feeling all this, they said, get that ark out of here. It is poisoning us. It is killing us. Verse 8. They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them and said, what shall we do with the ark of God of Israel? And they answered, let the ark of God of Israel be carried about unto Gath. And they carried the ark of the God of Israel about thither, right? Around Gath. Let's see if Gath is on this map. It should be. Yeah, Gath is right here in the valley. Alright. About thither. Verse 9. And it was so that after they had carried about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction. And he smote the men of the city, both small and great. And they had emerods in their secret parts, right? So it's even telling you, look, it's hemorrhoids. Therefore they sent the ark of God to Ekron, right? So Gath had the same problem that Ashdod had. And so now they sent it to Ekron. Let's look on the map. Ekron. Ekron is back north. Back northwest of Gath. Different Philistine-controlled cities, as you can see right here. All right. And it came to pass, as the ark of God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, they have brought about the ark of God of Israel to us, to slay us and our people, right? So Ekron's already been hearing the stories, been hearing the news about wherever the ark of God goes. If it's in a Philistine city, it's destroying that city. Alright? It's smiting the people with diseases. Hemorrhoids specifically. Alright? To slay us and our people. So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, send away the ark of God of Israel and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of God was very heavy there. And the men that died not were smitten with the emerods, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. Right? So clearly, God heard the cry that the Philistines were making, but anytime the ark of God is somewhere unholy, it smites that city. Alright, smites everybody around it. Right? That's the power of God coming out of it. That's why God gives specific instructions as far as how to approach it, who can carry it, right? Where to keep it in the temple, in the tabernacle. And when you're taking it out to war, here's how you do that. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 6. And the ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, what shall we do to the ark of the Lord? Tell us wherewith we shall send it to his place. And they said, if you send away the ark of God of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a trespass offering, then ye shall be healed. And it shall be known to you why his hand is not removed from you. Right? So they said, hey, don't send it away empty. Right? Don't just send it away by itself. Send also gifts. So he stops, plaguing us. Then said they, what shall be the trespass offering which we shall return to him? They answered, 5 golden emerods and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines. For one plague was on you all and on your lords. Right? So he said, make 5 golden hemorrhoids and 5 golden mice. All right, representing that we're base, right? We're a base people. We're nothing compared to the God of Israel. Wherefore ye shall make images of your emerods and images of your mice that mar the land, and ye shall give glory unto the God of Israel. Peradventure he will lighten his hand from off you, and from off your gods, and from off your land. Wherefore, then do ye harden your hearts, as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts, when he had wrought wonderfully among them. Did they not let the people go, and they departed? Right? So the lords of the Philistines are calling back on the history of the destruction of Egypt. And they said, look, we don't want it to get as bad as it was over there. If you just let the Ark of the Covenant go, God will take these plagues off of you. All right. Now therefore make a new cart, and take 2 milch kine, on which there hath come no yoke, and tie the kine to the cart, and bring their calves home from them. Right. So send it with the cows, right? Who are fresh cows and never carried any burden, right? And verse 8, and take the ark of the Lord and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold, which ye return him for a trespass offering, in a coffer by the side thereof, and send it away that it may go. Right? A coffer is like a little small chest. All right. And see if it goeth up by the way of his own coast to Beth Shemesh. Then he had done us this great evil. But if not, we shall know that it is not his hand that smote us. It was a chance that happened to us, right? Maybe it's just a coincidence that everywhere the Ark of the Covenant goes, all these plagues have been happening to us, right? So just send the cart on its way, and if the cows go by themselves to Beth Shemesh, right, Israelite city. Let's see if I can find Beth Shemesh real quick. I don't think so. I don't think we see it. Oh yeah, here it is, right here, Beth Shemesh. Israelite city going into Judah and Dan. Alright, so he said, send the cart. If it goes on its way to Beth Shemesh, then we know that it was the Lord doing it. If it goes back to Israelite city, we know it was the Lord. But if it doesn't, then maybe it was just coincidence. Verse 10. And the men did so, and took 2 milch kine, and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. And they laid the ark of the Lord upon the cart, and with the coffer with the mice of gold, and the images of their emerods. And the kine took the straight way to the way of Beth Shemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Beth Shemesh. Right, so they had to follow them, check and make sure where they went. And they of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. And they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark, and rejoiced to see it. And the cart came into the field of Joshua of Beth Shemite, and stood there where there was a great stone. And they clave the wood of the cart, and offered the kine a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the Levites took down the ark of the Lord, and the coffer that was with it, wherein the jewels of gold were, and put them on the great stone. And the men of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrificed sacrifices the same day unto the Lord. And when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they returned to Ekron the same day, right? I'm sure they were very happy to get the Ark of the Covenant out of their possession. And these are the golden emerods which the, excuse me, which the Philistines returned for a trespass offering unto the Lord, for Ashdod 1, Gaza 1, Ashkelon 1, Gath 1, and Ekron 1. Right, so those are their five main cities. Right. The gold mice, according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines, belonging to the 5 lords, both of fenced cities and of country villages, even unto the great stone of Abel, whereon they sat down the ark of the Lord, which stone remaineth unto this day in the field of Joshua the Beth-Shemite. Right, Abel means morning. And he smote the men of Beth-Shemesh, because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. Even he smote of the people 50,000. 70, so 50,070 men, right? Because people were getting curious and they were looking inside the ark of the Lord. Right, so this is what's inside the ark of the Lord is primarily the original 10 commandments that the Lord had written on with his fingers. All right, that's how the tablets had been touched by God. That's where the power of the Ark of the Covenant comes from. All right. And the people lamented, because the Lord had smitten many of the people with a great slaughter. And the men of Beth-Shemesh said, who is able to stand before this holy Lord God? And to whom shall he go up from us? And they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kirjath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have brought again the ark of the Lord. Come ye down and fetch it up to you. Right, Kirjath Jearim, I'm pretty sure is a border city between Judah and Benjamin. Yeah, well, it's Judah, Benjamin, and Dan. Basically that tribe area, tribe province area, tri-state area is Kirjath Jearim, to the northeast of Beth-Shemesh. All right. Let's go back. They said, come ye down and fetch it up to you. Right? The people of Beth-Shemesh, after it killed 50,000 other people, they said, no, let's get this on somewhere else. 7 and verse 1. And the men of Kirjath Jearim came and fetched up the ark of the Lord and brought it into the house of Abinadab in the hill, and sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. And it came to pass, while the ark abode in Kirjath Jearim, that the time was long, for it was 20 years. And all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. Alright, so it stayed there for 20 years. And Samuel spake unto all the house of Israel, saying, if you do return unto the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the strange gods of Ashtaroth and Ashtaroth among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hands of the Philistines. Then the children of Israel did put away Baalim and Ashtaroth, and serve the Lord only. And if you recall, our first second history lesson, we went into the history of Babylon and Nimrod and Semiramis, and these are the Canaanite versions of those gods, Baal and Ashtaroth. All right, Ashtaroth's the same as Ishtar and Easter, same thing. All right, and it says Baalim, meaning multiple lords, right? Multiple versions of the Baal god. Alright, verse 5. And Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpeh, and I will pray for you unto the Lord. And they gathered together to Mizpeh, and drew water, and poured it out before the Lord, and fasted on that day, and said there, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the children of Israel in Mizpeh. Alright. Mizpeh, I believe, is here in Benjamin. Yeah. Right here between Benjamin and Ephraim. And remember, Ramah is where Samuel grew up. So, served Eli and the priest here in Shiloh. Grew up here in Ramah. And Mizpeh is like a good middle city between those two. Verse 7. And when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel were gathered together to Mizpeh, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the children of Israel heard it, they were afraid of the Philistines. See, now, this is strange to me, right? The pride of these Philistines. They just saying that the God of Israel is a real and true God based upon the plagues that come upon their cities whenever they had the Ark of the Covenant, right? But they still want to come against Israel. And then on the flip side of that, the weak spirit that is upon the children of Israel when we are not serving the Lord. We are still afraid of our enemies, even though we've seen the power of God. That is strange to me. Verse 8. And the children of Israel said to Samuel, cease not to cry unto the Lord our God for us, that he will save us out of the hand of the Philistines. And Samuel took a sucking lamb and offered it for a burnt offering wholly unto the Lord. Right, the whole thing. And Samuel cried unto the Lord God of Israel, and the Lord heard him. And as Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. But the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines, and discomfited them. And they were smitten before Israel. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpeh, and pursued the Philistines, and smote them until they came under Beth-kar. Right? So, we saw here that the Lord fought for us, right, in this thunderstorm. Right? It was probably hailing and all sorts of things on these Philistines. Lightning strikes, all that kind of stuff. And that allowed Israel to get the advantage and chased them unto Beth-kar. I don't think Beth-kar is here. No, I don't see it. I can only assume it's back towards Philistine territory. I can only assume. I don't think it's the same as Beth-zur down here. I think that's something different. Anyway, let's get back to it. Verse 12. Then Samuel took a stone and set it between Mizpah and Shen, and called the name of it Ebenezer, saying, hitherto hath the Lord helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more into the coast of Israel. And the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. And the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel, from Ekron even unto Gath. And the coast thereof did Israel deliver out of the hands of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. Alright, so we see how the lords of the Philistines were in Ekron. Well, hold on, let me show that. Ekron, Gath, Ashdod, Ashkelon, and Gaza, right? But all this, as you can see on this map, was described in Joshua as belonging to the Judites, right? The Judites were supposed to take this land from the Philistines. So, all this, especially down here in this valley, was always disputed territory. It was always fought over between the Philistines and the Israelites. All right. Verse 15. And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. And he went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpeh, and judged Israel in all those places. Right. So he would he had this route that he went on. Gilgal to Bethel and Mizpeh right here. But his house was down here in Ramah. That's where he grew up. So he would do that circuit. Every year. Alright. Last verse. Verse 17. And his return was to Ramah, for there was his house. Yeah, I didn't even know that line was next, but I knew I'd read that before. And there he judged Israel, and there he built an altar unto the Lord. Right. So he had that circuit that he would run through, all through Benjamin. It would appear, yeah, through Benjamin and Ephraim. Yeah, that's where he grew up. That's where he's from. All right. So now we're getting to the sons of Samuel and where Israel goes after that. As you can see right here, Israel demands a king. And it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And notice how Beersheba, all the way down here, right, just north of that Hazar Shual. But notice it's nowhere near the circuit of Samuel, right? And his sons did that for a reason. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes and perverted judgment, right? So they, as it said, they took bribes, right? They cared more about lucre or money, right? And perverted judgment. They said, we know you killed that man, but if you want to slide, just, give me some gold. Verse 4. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel to Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us, like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel, when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people, and all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. Right? So the people, as you can see, they want to be like everybody else. Israelites have always had a problem of wanting to be like everybody else. Even though God established us to be different from everybody else. Everybody had kings, right? We were the only people that God said, look, establish yourself judges. Establish yourself these a council of men to rule over cities, and they will receive counsel from the Lord, right? And everything will be done in according with the law of God. And you'll have these council of men to interpret the law of God in each city. Right? And then, of course, you had the whole time period of the judges where Israel was going back and forth whether they wanted to be righteous or not. And you have this right here with Samuel. He was a righteous man. Then his sons moved to a different city so that they could be away from their righteous father and do wickedness. Right? So they said, we want to be like everybody else. Give us a king. Obviously, Samuel didn't want to do this. He said, look, we should be doing it the way the law says to do it. And God said, look, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. Right? So he said, look, they've been rejecting me ever since they came out of Egypt. Now you know what it feels like, Samuel. Now you know what it feels like. What it feels like to be a god to this people. They're going to reject you. Alright? He said, look, listen to them, but tell them what their king's going to be like. Tell them how wicked he's going to be to them. Verse 10. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. Right? So he said he's going to take your people and use them to be his personal servants. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he's going to take all your stuff and do whatever he wants to with it. Take all your possessions, take all your fields, and grow whatever he wants. He's going to take all your crops. He's going to do whatever he wants to with everything that you have. Right? He's going to be this one authoritarian person that you can't say no to. Right? And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work. And he will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, when ye shall have chosen you, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Alright? Many kings there were. Alright? But only 3 of them were righteous. Most of them were like this, like what Samuel's describing. And I just want to point this out real quick in the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, and the Apocrypha. I believe it's around 48. Let's see. Elias. It might be before this, when it talks about the kings of Israel. Previous chapter. I might be looking over it. Let's see. It might be in 49 even. Speaking on the kings of Israel. Yeah, I looked over 48. I didn't see it. Yes, this is it right here. This is Sirach in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus 49 and verse 4. It says, all except David and Hezekiah and Josias were defective. Right? So all the kings, there was many kings over Judah and Israel that we're going to get into when we start going through the history. All right? They were all defective. They were like what Samuel is describing. People that took advantage of the people who were wicked. For they forsook the law of the Most High. Even the kings of Judah failed. Right? And Judah was supposed to be, the chosen lineage of David. All right? The kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom, just a mess. All right? Judah was a little bit more straightforward. They said even they failed. It was only David, Hezekiah, and Josiah that were righteous. The rest were wicked, as far as the kings of Israel are concerned. That's what Samuel's trying to tell them. All right? And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Verse 19, nevertheless the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, nay, but we will have a king over us, that we may also be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go ye every man unto his city. Right? So, we didn't even get to the anointing of Saul.